So before I begin, I just want to make a quick announcement. One of my best friends in the world, Sheikh Ustad Nouman Ali. I know him for a very, very, very long time, alhamdulillah. It's actually the first time I taught an Arabic class outside of my hometown was in his masjid. About 1938. So it was actually 2000. Year was 2000, alhamdulillah, that I taught in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he was 15 at the time? He was really young. He's very young, actually. He doesn't look that, but I told him he looks like a ammu. But alhamdulillah, he's a really, really good friend, and I'm really grateful to him because he was also my Hajj group leader. So he was my imam for Hajj also. And if anybody's thinking about going to Hajj, go with Sheikh Ustad Nouman Ali. You will not regret it. He's a fantastic group leader, alhamdulillah. But I bring him up because he's going to be teaching a course marked for greatness, which is a partial tafsir of Surah Maryam, this coming Saturday at the Richardson Masjid. So if you guys can attend the 10 a.m. session, please do so, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? I think you'll really benefit from it. I was going to have him do this next part of shame. I haven't told him that, but now it's out. So if you're watching, Omar, you're doing shame. Very good. So now, inshallah, in this next section, I want to talk to you about the case study, the Qur'an's case study of dealing with shamelessness and the challenge of shamelessness, which is the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, as all of you know, one part of his story. So let's get right into it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولما بلغ أشده, when he reached mature age, when he hit puberty. Basically, بلغ أشده in the Arabic language actually refers to reaching the age of puberty. And shadda yashuddu in the Arabic language means to tie something tight. So when he was able to tie, the idea is a man or a woman is able to tie their emotions and their impulses tight when they reach the age of puberty, meaning they're adults and they have full control and therefore full responsibility for whatever they're doing. So, puberty is associated in the Arabic language and in Islam with maturity. Puberty is associated with maturity, and in modern culture, puberty is associated with physical maturity, but intellectual immaturity. Right? It's associated with youth being impulsive, being brash, having short tempers. I was mentioning in my khutbah last week that billions of dollars by advertising agencies are spent just to figure out how to sell products to teenagers. Because if you can give teenagers the right colors, the right images, the right kind of music at the right time, then they'll click on it right away, or they'll buy that product right away. And if you can tell them that this brand will make them feel like they're worth more, then they'll wear that brand and they'll wear your logo on their t-shirt and they'll basically sell your brand for you and feel good about themselves, even though they're selling your name. Right? They're walking billboards, but they won't know it, because they'll feel they're worth more because they're wearing a particular brand, right? So the idea of brand advertising is pushed particularly towards young people because they're considered impulsive and easy to manipulate, and that's why you'll find a lot of malls, right? A lot of malls, the kiosks and the stores that are storefront in the malls are actually very youth oriented, and they'll have like a lot of things that are just because they know that's the easiest consumer to get to, because they're not going to put a lot of thought into something before spending the money. They're not going to pick up a t-shirt from a store and say, does Walmart have the same thing or cheaper? Not going to cross their mind. They're just going to buy it because it says Aeropostale or whatever it says, Gap or Banana Republic, whatever, Aeropass, I can never pronounce it. But anyway, Aeropostale. You happy with that? Aeropostale. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stick to that now. Okay, so they buy that, and they just because they're carrying that branded logo, they feel good about themselves, right? They're impulsive. So this kind of thing is associated with young people, and this, and I actually experienced some of this too. When I was a teen, I used to work at how do I describe this place? Do you remember Jimmy Jazz, or do you not? You do remember Jimmy Jazz? Jimmy Jazz was a place where you buy clothes that you would wear if you were going to be in a hip-hop video. I suppose that's what you would describe Jimmy Jazz as, okay? Timberland boots, Karl Kani, Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, you know that stuff. And of course, the smallest size they have is 38 for a scrawny teenager, because he has to wear pants like he's going camping, and the pants will serve as a tent later, right? So, but so they had those, those gangster wear, whatever. I used to work in that store, and I was the only Muslim in the store that worked there, right? So my coworkers were like non-Muslim, and they were all teenagers too. We just worked minimum wage. But this is a long time ago, so minimum wage was $4.25 an hour. And it's not Mexico, it's New York. Seriously, yes, it happened. Yes, well, back in my day, But anyway, so I worked in that store, and man, we used to get our paycheck, and I used to kind of put it toward in the bank account, help the parents out with the groceries and things like that, and a little bit went towards college tuition savings because I was still in high school, right? I had another year to go. And these guys, man, they get the paycheck, and then my friend is like, next day he's like, you got $5, man? We got $5. I was like, you just got paid yesterday, bro. He goes, yeah, but I put it down for those new Jordans that came out, man. I was like, you don't have money for food, and you're buying Jordan sneakers on layaway? What were you thinking? Well, he wasn't thinking, because that's not what you do. You get paid on Friday, you're bankrupt by Saturday. That's how it works. There were guys that worked in the same, and they get paid as much as I do or less, because they do lesser hours, right? And the guy's got rims that you would have to take out a loan for, right? He's got amazing rims, and I used to you could check your face in those rims and stuff. They were awesome. But why are you doing that? Because you're impulsive. You think that's what life is worth. So you don't have money to pay the rent, but you got to buy those rims. So they manipulate young people like that. They make you buy things you think you can't do without, right? And I'm bringing all of this up because the idea of youth being impulsive, like not thinking through things and just acting, just doing it, is a very commonly known phenomenon, and it's actually something that entire marketing and advertising agencies build their strategies around. So it's for real, it's not fake. It does happen. But Islam says something interesting. It says if a youth is brought up on Islam, then this is the age where they really, for the first time, truly learn to control themselves, not let themselves go. The opposite of being impulsive, to be in charge. In other words, a child, an adolescent, is less in control. You tell them not to eat the cookies, they'll still end up eating the cookies, and they're like, oh, I forgot, sorry. You tell the kids not to touch that, okay. They'll do it. Because they're not in control, and that's why in Sharia also, they're not mukallaf, they're not responsible for what they do, children. But once they get to this age, then the idea is they do know how to control themselves. So two things are happening at the same time. You're being bombarded with incredible temptation, because puberty just came in, and blah, blah, blah. Right? That's happened. And on the other hand, you are now responsible for every action that you take, and you are considered an adult as far as God is concerned. As far as Allah is concerned, you're a complete adult. Now, Yusuf alayhi salam, particularly good-looking young man. Particularly good-looking young man. Okay? And if you're confused about what happened in the story, the lady saw him and decided to stab their hands. That's not what happened. That's you're not understanding what the ayat are saying. That's okay. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about another part of the story, and that is وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ, when he reached mature age, and he was at the age where he could control himself, and he was at that age of temptation also. آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا, we gave him wisdom. Hukum actually means not just wisdom, but the ability to make firm, solid decisions and stick to them. And that is important, because hukum means not only did you come to the right conclusion, but you stuck to that decision. Sometimes you know what the right thing is, but you don't stick to it. Right? You know what the right thing is, you don't stick to it, which means you don't have hukum. You don't have hukum. So hukum combines two things. Hikmah, which is wisdom, common sense, good sense. Good sense really is a good translation of hikmah. It's not just wisdom like, we usually think of wisdom as some philosophical thing that old people have when they talk really deep, or when they, somebody sends a tweet that nobody understands, but they go, that was deep, man. So that's not wisdom. Wisdom is actually really well thought out decisions. Really good common sense. And the Arab linguistic definition of wisdom is beautiful. Al-hikmah al-ilmu al-nafi' wal-amalu bihi. They say hikmah is good knowledge, beneficial knowledge, and acting on it. Give you the simplest, dumbest example there is. You're standing at the edge of a balcony, it's 3 floors high. Jumping off is not a good idea. Good knowledge, gravity hurts. Acting on it, wisdom. Okay, now you know gravity hurts, but to prove to your friend, I could do it. Watch this. You had knowledge, but you didn't what? Act on it, you lack wisdom. You lack wisdom. So the distinction I want to make is between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge, easy. Knowledge is easy. Acting on that knowledge in what's in your best interest, that's wisdom. And wisdom, also the other part of wisdom is, you don't look at what is happening right now, أَن تَنْظُرَ إِلَىٰ عَوَاقِبِ الْأُمُورِ. You look at the consequences of your decisions. In other words, a teenager, we said, is, according to the advertising world, is impulsive, right? Impulsive means he's going to buy this right now. Is he worried about what's going to happen tomorrow? No. Is he concerned about the consequences of his actions 1 month from now, 3 years from now? No. So, before smoking was banned to advertise in America, a lot of teenagers, many more teenagers smoked. Now it's pot and other things, right? But smoking was huge. Why? Because it was associated with you feeling like you're cooler and you're an adult and you're older than your years. So a 13-year-old is really tempted to, stick a stogie in his mouth and stand in the corner of the school because he's going to feel like a man. Right? But if you tell him the health risks and you tell him the consequences of smoking and the dangers of it, none of that makes sense to him. None of it makes sense to him. Why? Because all the dangers you're telling him about are not immediate, they are long term. He can't think that far ahead. He's impulsive. He's impulsive. So youth, one of their great dangers is that they only think in the right now. So a young guy comes to me and says, brother, I want to marry this girl. Why do you want to marry her? Because I love her. How do you know you love her? I don't know, I just feel this way. I was like, does her family like you? No, they hate me. Did you tell your family? No, my mother would kill me. Okay, have you thought about where you're going to live? No. How are you going to pay for her? I don't know. Love will find a way. Right? They say in Arabic, لَيْسَ فِي الْحُبِّ مَشُورًا. When it comes to love, you don't want to hear any advice. Especially young people. I love her. No, you don't. You're just hormonal. If you love her, then you wouldn't want to see her entire family suffer. If you love her, then you wouldn't want her to be hurt by her and separated from her family. If you cared for her, then you would care for every part of her life. And you wouldn't want any misery to come to her. You wouldn't want her to come into your family where everyone in your family hates her too. What is this love? That's just your hormones talking. That's not love. Who are you kidding? You just love yourself. That's all you love. So all you love is your temptations. There's nothing more to this than that. There isn't. So now, when Yusuf ﷺ reached teenage years, Allah says He gave him firm decision making. He gave him something most youth don't have. He had the ability to think about the consequences of his actions. He wouldn't just make an impulsive decision. And then Allah says, وَعِلْمًا, and He gave him knowledge too. He gave him knowledge on top of that. Now what did He mention first, knowledge or wisdom? He mentioned wisdom first. Which is interesting because young people, for them, knowledge is extremely easy. You know that? If you didn't have the short attention span disorder that you have because of playing Angry Birds 20 hours a day, if you didn't have short attention span problems, studies for you are a piece of cake. You can get ready for the test 30 minutes before the test and still get an A. You can pull it off. Knowledge is no problem for you. Memorizing is no problem for you. Studying is no problem for you. It's super easy for you. And the only people that have a hard time is the people who watch too much TV because their attention span is damaged. Right? Otherwise, knowledge is really easy for young people. They take it in like a sponge. Kids that are memorizing Quran in teenage years, oh my God, it makes me angry how easy to memorize Quran. And you get older and you're like sitting there reciting 3 days. I have a really brilliant friend in Ohio. I'm not going to mention his name because he's probably watching. Right? Brilliant. I love this man. I want to be a dad like him. He's my ideal dad. That guy. He's awesome. But anyway, so he's trying to memorize Quran. His kids are like almost marriage age now. He's trying to memorize Quran. He'll memorize 1 ayah, 2 ayat in like 5 hours. He'll sit 5 hours consistently. 5 hours to memorize 2 ayat. You ask a teenage kid, memorize these 2 ayat. Well, which 2 ayat? These? Okay, I got it. No, you don't. Yes, I do. It's not. You got it. Knowledge is easy for young people. Wisdom is hard for young people. Now the opposite happens at old age. What's easy for old people? Wisdom is easy for old people, and knowledge becomes hard for old people. It reverses. Allah says Yusuf is unique. This young man, we gave him the gift of wisdom. And additionally, of course, knowledge. The relationship between these two is another way to understand it, just as an example and then another perspective. The example is, you're really smart, boy or girl. You're an A student, you graduated top of your class in high school, your parents are so happy with you, they buy you a car. They buy you a car. Bad idea. You're really smart when it comes to studies, knowledge, but you have zero wisdom. So you go on the highway and you're going 85, 90 miles an hour. And you're not indicating when you turn lanes. And you're peeling out in a parking lot. Because it's an M5. So, you got to put it to work. What does that mean? You have a lot of knowledge, but you're so stupid. You have no wisdom. Just because you have knowledge doesn't mean you're smart. That just means you have knowledge, you have information. But wisdom is something else. So they're two separate things. Now, the other thing here is, wisdom is like the driver. Wisdom decides what kind of knowledge you will learn. If you have wisdom, you will learn good knowledge. If you don't have wisdom, you will learn bad knowledge. Without wisdom, a youth can learn how to crack an iPhone, how to download stuff without their parents knowing, how to hang out and create an alternate Facebook profile and wash out the temporary cache files from the computer and nobody will ever know, how to cheat on an exam, and they'll be really smart too. It's impressive how intelligent criminal young minds are. They're pretty impressive. All that knowledge is there because it's not guided by wisdom. Now if you have wisdom, you'll say, I'm in my young years, somebody told me as you get older memorizing becomes harder, maybe I should start memorizing Quran now. It'll help me the rest of my life. Maybe I should learn some more things about my religion. Maybe I should take better care of my health. Maybe I should get into better sleeping habits from now instead of later on. Maybe I should start eating better instead of eating junk. Now your wisdom is directing your knowledge. Now Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah says we gave him wisdom, we gave him knowledge. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And that is how we compensate those who excel, those who constantly recognize our presence, al-muhsinin. Now this is a young man with wisdom and knowledge, and now that wisdom and knowledge and his ihsan is going to be put to the test. Ihsan means you recognize Allah's presence. You're always aware Allah is there. Ihsan has come up twice so far in the context of shamelessness. We were reading Surah Ali Imran, we heard, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin, walladhina idha fa'alu fahishatan. Allah loves those who excel, even when they do something shameless, they immediately remember Allah. I had that conversation with you. So ihsan was mentioned in the context of someone who makes a mistake of shamelessness. Then we also saw, وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى الَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ الْكَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَوَاحِشِ. Right? Then Allah says in Surah An-Najm, Allah will give those who excel the best, people of ihsan, He will give them the best, and those who are those people, they stay away from all kinds of shamelessness, except some mistakes they make. إِلَّا اللَّمَمْ. Now Allah says, Yusuf alayhi salam, young man, good looking, smart, intelligent, wise, person of ihsan, and he lives in this house in Egypt, and the minister's wife, who's considered by most mufassirun a beautiful woman, a tempting woman, she lives there. He's a young man. There's nothing wrong with him being attracted to a beautiful woman. There's nothing wrong with that. Even though Quran doesn't tell us that, it only indicates something towards it, and we'll see. And you have to keep the integrity of the prophets intact. Alayhimu salatu wassalam. Allah says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ. What a word, man. What a word. Rawada. What's the sarf? Ahlu bayyina. Rawada what? Yurawidu. Horgiya. Riwadan wa murawadatan. Fahuwa murawidun. Yeah, rawada comes there are three words I want to tell you. First word is ruwaida. Ruwaida, from the same root. Right? What's the ayah? Amhilhum Ruwaida. Ruwaida means slowly. Ruwaida in Arabic means aram se way. Ruwaida, slowly, easily. Then from it you get the word arada yuridu. What does arada yuridu mean? To want. Then you get rawada, to make someone want what you want, to make someone think the way you think, to get someone to agree with your thoughts, to seduce someone, and to seduce them slowly. To get them to think like you. Oh, come on. Yusuf, just sit here for a little bit. Come here. Let me talk to you for a little bit. And he's avoiding her, and he's avoiding her, and he's avoiding her. It's not one time. It's rawadat. She kept going at him. She wouldn't stop. Yusuf, could you come here for a second? And he keeps his eyes low. He never looks at her. She keeps trying. Now I've talked to you before about guys going after the girl. What's the story about? Girl going after the guy. That happens too. And she won't stop. And this poor kid, he's a young kid. He's a man, actually. I shouldn't say kid. He's a man, young man, good-looking man, unmarried man, lives in this house. She wants to be with him. He knows it's wrong, and he works for her too. All the reasons to justify it to yourself and say, what's wrong with that? I mean, she's my boss. What's the big deal? She doesn't seem to mind. Allah says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ. She wanted him, and she tried to seduce him, and she tried to get him to think like her. It's not a big deal. It's okay. You won't get in trouble. الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا. The one whose house he lived in. Look at the language. Allah could have said, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ إِمْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ. The wife of the minister wanted him, she was seducing him. Allah says, the one whose house he lived in, to say that he was constantly around her, and he had to listen to her and everything else, because it's part of his job. And he's not just an employee, he's a slave. So he has to live there, he can't go anywhere else. It would be a crime for him to leave. So he is surrounded by this woman, constantly in his 24/7 day that is trying to tempt him. He is in a constant situation of fitna. So if you have a girl flirting with you at the office, it's not as bad as Yusuf alayhi salam. It's not nearly as bad as this. Oh bro, I don't know what to do. This girl, secretary. You ain't got it like this. It's not your boss. It's not your boss. 24/7 he's around this woman, and she keeps getting more and more provocative towards him. عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. And then عَنْ نَفْسِهِ is also an interesting phrasing here, which actually means to make him forget who he really is. Think like me, not like yourself. Don't be yourself. Just forget your rules for a minute. Don't worry about right and wrong. It's okay. It's okay, just come here. وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. And she went around one time, and before he could come into the room, there are multiple doors in the house. She locked every door, and every door had multiple latches, and she locked every single latch. You know? So you got multiple locks on every door. So if you try to go, you got to unlock this, and unlock this, and unlock this, and unlock, and then you can get out. You can't just get out. She locked all the doors, and then she said, وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ. Hurry up and come here. And haytalak is used in a lustful way. It's not appropriate language outside of that. Come here, you. And she calls him. And we don't know. Allah kept it a secret, what state she was in. And this young man is in the room. And he doesn't know what to do. Now what young man who's never experienced that temptation before? But the urge is inside. The urge, Allah put that inside. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. He put it inside us. He put that inside us. And he's there. And he knows nobody's going to find out. It's behind closed doors. It's behind closed doors. What's the big deal? Allah Azza wa Jalla says, قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. The words that came out of this mouth are مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. I remind you what we learned in theory in Surah Al-Imran. We're seeing it in practice here. We saw وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهِ فَهُوَ لَمْ يَفْعَلِ الْفَاحِشَةَ وَرَغْمَ ذَلِكَ ذَكَرَ اللَّهِ. When they do something wrong, they immediately remember Allah. He hasn't even done something wrong yet. Nothing. The danger of doing something wrong is here. Because he understands, it's not la tazinu, it is la taqrabu zina. He knows he's close to zina right now. He's in dangerous territory right now. He's dangerous. So he says, ma'adh Allah. Now ma'adh Allah, there's another way to say that in Arabic. You can say al-iyadhu billah. You might have heard somebody say al-iyadhu billah. وَأَيْضًا نَقُولُ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. Ma'adh is what's called an ism dharf. Ism dharf is used for time and place. It's used for a time and a place. So it's not, I seek the refuge of Allah. He says, I seek a place where I get the refuge of Allah. I seek a time where I get refuge of Allah. Ya Allah, get me out of these moments. Get me out of this place. I need to be in a place where I have your protection, not this place. It's actually referring to a place, not just protection. Because he knows this place is no good for him. So the wisdom of Yusuf alayhi salam is even in the brief words he uttered when he said, Ma'adh Allah. And he says, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya. My master, no doubt about it, he's the one that has done so much. He's provided me such good housing. It's been interpreted in two ways. One is, Allah has provided me such good housing. How can I do this wrong? And the other is, the guy who pulled me out of the well, he's put me up in this house. Did you know that when he brought him into the house as a slave, he told his wife, Akrimi mathwahu? Akrimi mathwahu. You know what that means? Honor his permanent housing. Very brief language. But you know what the master of the house, the minister, you know what he did for him? He said, number one, don't just give him a room. Honor his room. Honor his room. In other words, stay away from his room, woman. I know you. Give him his space. You need to respect his space. The guy knows something about his wife. He doesn't just say, A'tihi mathwahu. He says, A'tihi mathwahu. He says, Akrimi, honor his room. Give him a place where he can live respectably by himself. And mathwa actually means a place where you stay for multiple generations. That is his room for generations to come. In other words, you will never move him from that room. That is his room. It's not even mathwan lahu. Honor a room, set up a room for him. No, it's his room. The guy had really taken care of Yusuf alayhi salam.